When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Welcome back to the channel, race fans, and I appreciate you all being here. So today and this series is all going to be about turning lemons into lemonade. And what do I mean about that? Well, I mean this. So this is a 2008 GMC Sierra. I needed another truck after this happened to my last truck. So I went to an auction and I bought this blind, and it's a piece of shit. So this series is going to be all about trying to turn this piece of shit into something that's drivable. So first things first, there's a lot wrong with it. It cost me $3,500 and I way overpaid. It's worth about 500 bucks. Best thing to do is going to list what's wrong with it and then say which ones we're going to tackle. Some of them I'm not going to tackle because of the age of the truck, but some of them really do need fixing as it's a safety issue. So let's have a look what's wrong with this. So first off, inside, you can see that whoever had this before me messed around with the electrics, and the key takes a while and fanning around to get it turned on. But she fires up nicely. Alright, so we have that check right front pressure tyre sensor, and it will say check right rear tyre sensor. I don't know whether the sensor's in there. So that one's an easy fix. I can pop the wheels off, pop the tyres off and check them out. We have a check engine light, which is for an O2 sensor, which is typical with GMC trucks and Chevy trucks. We then also have a really weird thing where I indicate left, all good. I indicate right, and the full beam comes on. So I got to figure that out as well. Cosmetically, this fender's been hit by whoever owned it before us, so I might try and source a new fender. That's really easy to replace and get rid of these plastic things on the side which basically trap and hold moisture and make for worse rust. This inside here has no wheel well, fender liner should I say, which leaves the inside of the engine exposed to anything that's coming off the tyre. That side is not missing, so I need to find one of them. So major driving safety issues is basically the suspension. So the car bounces up and down, so that makes me think that the shocks are toast. Also there's a lot of rattling coming from the left side especially, and the left side of this truck is way worse than the right. So once we get the wheel off and we look at the suspension, we'll also look at tie rods, ball joints and all that good stuff to make sure everything's tight. The biggest problem with this truck though is the rust on the left side, and I'll show you what I mean. I bought this sight unseen, and as you can see, this entire rocker has rusted out. I think the floor's rusted out as well, and it comes all the way back to about here. That's going to be a major repair job, but as I say, I'm in it for $3,500. It's probably worth about $500 now, so that's something I'm going to try and tackle in one of the videos. So let's come up with a list of what needs to be done. Okay, so item one is going to be the suspension. Now, I could go out and buy all new from Rock Auto, and realistically I suggest that's what you do, but I want to try and do this as cheap as possible. So I'm going to go to pick a pull, grab an entire suspension off another truck like this, throw it on and see what I can see what happens. If it's tie rods and stuff, I'll buy new tie rods and ball joints, but for shocks and stuff you can generally get decent quality ones from your scrapyard, and they're not hard to put on. So that will be this video. This video will be changing the suspension. Then the next video is going to be electrics, where we fix, or we attempt to fix, the indicator and the high beam, put in the brake control for the trailer, and if I can, I'll try and fix the ignition. And if I've got no tire sensors, I'm just going to buy 4 off Amazon, throw them in and see what happens. I'm not too really worried about the O2 sensor. They break all the time. If it's cheap, I'll grab one and put one in while I'm under there. So that'll be the electrics video. Bodywork video when I get a fender, because they are very hard to find, because generally in the scrapyard most of these trucks have had front end damage. When I find a decent fender, I'll do a video on how to swap the fender and put the fender liner in. Then the final video will be trying to fix this rust. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot it slightly out of order. I'm going to pull everything out of this truck and look how bad the rust is. If it's way beyond what I'm worth attempting, I'll probably just scrap the truck and take the $3,500 loss. But I've looked at the frame rails don't seem rusty. It seems to be all sheet metal on the box, which I'm happy to give it a bash of body welding and see what happens. So stick around, guys. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the videos. And in this series we'll try and turn this lemon into some lemonade. With the wheel off, basically this is your coilover and your strut assembly. It's attached with 2 bolts and nuts down here and 3 on top. The 3 on top are 18mm, then these 2 down here come from underneath are 2 15mm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blast both sides with PB blaster or any penetrating fluid to give myself the best option, and then I will check all the other components. Then it'll be basically take this out, drop it out. I pick some up from pick and pull, so put them in, see what happens. But let's get a flashlight and have a look what's going on in here. All right, looking in here, those are the 2 bolts that attach the lower part of the suspension, and just in there you can see 1, 2, and then there's a 3rd one at the back. Looking in here, sway bars feel fairly solid. There's no wiggle in the tie rod on this side. Axle's a little loose, but not massively. And tie rod and ball joints are fairly solid. So I'm hoping just changing the strut will fix the problem, basically. All right, let's get some PB blaster on it. All right, so we got some down there. Okay, so those are the 3. So if you've got the truck jacked up in the air, you're going to need some kind of step ladder to get on, and you're going to need an 18mm socket with an extension. There you go, all 3 nuts off. Keep these because we'll reuse them. I'm going to go under the truck now and try and get the 15s off. So they are just spinning. So looking at these ones, they're not quite stock because they actually have nuts on them, whereas the stock ones have like a catcher nut. So I need to go get a wrench for that. All right, 18mm wrench is what you need for these bolts that I've got. Obviously yours may be different. And bolt. Two nuts, 2 bolts. Now the strut should just move out of there. There she goes. So the shock is out. You do have to disconnect the tie rod because the top is slightly too big, but I'm glad I did because that is the state of my tie rod. So I definitely need a new outer. The inner doesn't seem to be moving, so we will grab one of them and throw it on. All right, I got my other shock here from Pick and Pull, so I'm going to slide this up. Locate the holes. I just want to get the nuts started on the top there. Okay, you might be able to see down here, it's not quite up high enough and I'm kind of stuck, so I'm using a jack and a little bit of 2x4 to try and jack it up into position. There she goes. She just popped into place now, so I should be able to put the 215s in directly underneath. Okay, so you can probably see here, this is what the stock ones look like. There's like these little clips that go over, but these two are in, the 3 are in the top. Now it just requires torquing them, and then unfortunately I got this issue, but we'll deal with that a different day. Alright, so wheels back on, got to do that tie rod at some point. Now you just rinse and repeat on the other side of the car, and that's your front shocks done. Let's move to the rears. Alright, so here is the rear shock, and for this you need a 21mm socket and a 21mm wrench. There's only 2 bolts to take out. There's a bolt and a nut down here which needs a socket and a wrench, and then there's just a 21mm bolt up the top with a capture nut. So it is relatively easy. I'll get that out and we'll see how bad the shock is. Here we go, 21mm wrench on the nut and then on the socket on this side. And then she comes off. Wow, that was pretty rusty, but the bolt comes straight out. Pretty decent chunky bolt, and then the shock is free. So up top there, is the next bolt. It's a 21mm, but it's a capture nut on that side, so you don't need the wrench. I'll just move the camera while I get this out of the way. Alright, so here's the shock that came off the truck. Here's the shock I got from Pick and Pull. Basically identical. I'm going to see whether it's worth changing. So this is what the shock from Pick and Pull looks like. Hard to compress, bounces back up nicely. This one, alright, so basically both shocks are the same, so I'm just going to put the original shock back on. It must have been something else on the back end. So with all the shocks back on, I put the wheels on, get them torqued. It's time for a test drive. Alright, so out on a test drive, the bouncing at the front stopped completely. The whistling and the chattering as I hit potholes, I've basically been aiming for potholes, that's gone as well. So I would say the front end suspension was toast, and the second-hand stuff I got from Pick and Pull, I paid $120 for all 4, the rear shocks and the front, and it didn't end up using the rears because, like I showed in the video, we took the rears off and the rears felt good, but the fronts, massive improvement. So now I've just got to order some tie rods, and that'll be the next video. I'll quickly show you how to put some tie rods on this thing. But overall, it's improved probably the handling of this car by about 1,000,000-fold. So
I'd say job done. If you enjoyed this, and if you now know how to swap the front end suspension and rear end suspension of your GMC Chevy truck, awesome. Drop a comment, let me know when you do it yourself. Also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it and it helps me out. So the next one, we'll probably look at maybe doing the welding repair. That is a big job. I've basically got to go a couple of days without a vehicle because I've got to strip down the seat, the carpet, see how far the rust actually goes. The wiring one, I've ordered the trailer brake, so that wiring, I'll do that when it gets here, and I should probably tackle the high beam right indicator, right signal at the same time. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Look forward to seeing you in the next one, and we'll see you later.